Tonight, welcome to a space that belongs entirely to you. Before we begin, you must deeply understand this. This place is entirely yours. You don't have to accomplish anything, untangle any knots, or reach any goal. Your being here is not a coincidence. You are here because your soul thirsts for peace. Something within you, not just your body, but your mind too, knows it desperately needs a deep rest, a moment to breathe. Tonight is the time to answer that need and listen to the voice of ancient wisdom. Because thousands of years ago, the Stoic philosophers deeply understood how to reach this inner peace. In the hours ahead, you will hear the words of people who saw war, endured betrayal, were tested by loss, and despite all of it, managed to find stillness in the very heart of chaos. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they did not speak through dry theories, but through a profound struggle torn from the depths of life itself. And tonight, their voice will become a whisper, accompanying you as it carries you into sleep. These words will flow through your mind like a river. You don't have to understand every sentence. You don't need to try to engrave every word into your memory. Just listen and allow it. Let these teachings wash over you like a cleansing rain, gently lifting away all the weight of the day. Because this is not merely content. This is a sanctuary, a resting place where you can leave the burden of the day at the door and be alone with your inner peace. Remember, sleep is not a task. Peace is not a reward to be earned. They are our nature, already existing within our essence, that we have simply forgotten. Now, if you are ready to remember that nature together, let us begin. 1. There is only one place you can rule. Do you want to understand why so much of your life has turned into an endless chain of frustration, why you keep hitting the same walls over and over, and why your mind never quiets down when you lie in bed at night? The answer will not be easy to hear. Because within this answer, there is no boss to blame, no family, no system. The answer concerns only you. All that exhaustion, that never-ending anxiety, and those senseless bursts of anger have a single source. You are consuming your life trying to manage things over which you have not an ounce of influence. You are pouring all your energy into battles you cannot possibly win. Every morning you open your eyes and begin wrestling an invisible wind. Then at the end of the day, you wonder why you're left breathless. This is the first and hardest slap that Stoic philosophy delivers. Your battlefield is entirely wrong. You spend every day in the trenches of this futile war. You don't even realize it, because by now, this has become your normal. Think about the comments under a photo you posted on social media. 2 words written by a stranger whose only identity beside their name is a handful of digits can shape your entire day. A compliment, and you think you rule the world. A criticism, and you sink into the ground. You are placing the key to your own mood, with your own hands, into the pocket of someone you've never met, someone who may very well despise their own life. You call this modern life. But this is modern slavery itself. When you could be the master of your own mind, you choose instead to be the puppet of thousands of nameless people. You're in traffic. The car ahead is going slow, and a monster rises within you. You start screaming, cursing. But what is actually happening? You, inside a soundproof metal box, are making meaningless noises toward another metal box. That driver cannot hear you. The flow of traffic does not care one bit about your rage. The only thing happening is you mixing another fistful of poison into your own blood. You are making yourself sick. Why? Because reality is not the way you want it to be. Because of that arrogant part of you that believes reality should move according to your pleasure. Let's think about the past. How much your mind loves rummaging through old notebooks. You replay a conversation that ended years ago over and over in your head, trying to find that perfect response you couldn't deliver that day. You wander through the wreckage of a finished relationship, devouring yourself with, would things have been different if I had done it this way? Do you know what this resembles? Digging up a corpse that has long been buried and expecting it to come back to life. You are trying to live today while carrying the corpses of your past on your back. Then you wonder why you're so exhausted, why you can't take a single step forward. Where could you possibly go with that weight? This is what Stoic teaching offers, an end to this madness. It does not promise you a house with pink shutters or infinite happiness. It merely gives you a pair of glasses. These glasses allow you to divide the world into two: things you can control and things you cannot. That's it. There is no third category. The moment you grasp this distinction, you withdraw from that futile war. You redirect your energy from trying to push the ocean to holding the rudder of your own boat. So what is that domain? Your absolute kingdom, over which you have complete sovereignty. The list is so short that at first, you may be disappointed. But the depth of that list is vaster than an entire universe. Here is your fortress. First, your perspective on events. What happens out there are merely neutral events. What makes them a catastrophe or a miracle is the label you attach to them. Getting fired is an event. It can mean the end of my life, or it can mean, finally, the chance to break free from a job I hated and carve my own path. The choice is yours. The world presents you with a picture. Whether you write tragedy or opportunity beneath it is entirely in your hands. Second, your choices. Life brings you to a crossroads every single second. When someone insults you, you choose whether or not to stoop to their level. When you don't feel like doing something, you choose whether or not to show discipline. With every choice, you sculpt your own character like a sculptor. Blaming circumstances or people is the easiest path. But the moment you take responsibility for every choice like an adult, you truly take the wheel of your life. Third, and most importantly, your actions. You cannot control outcomes, but you can always control the process. Imagine you are preparing for an exam. You cannot control what score you'll get, the difficulty of the questions, or your mood that day. But whether or not you study, how much effort you put in, how many times you review, you can control 100%. A stoic mind devotes all its focus not to the outcome, but to the process. Because it knows that character is not built by results, but by the effort shown. The clean conscience that comes from doing your absolute best is far more valuable than any exam score. When you begin applying this principle to your life, it is a liberation. But be careful, it is also a heavy responsibility. Because now, you have no excuses left. If you are unhappy, you can no longer blame the traffic, the economy, or the people who don't understand you. If you are suffering because of the way you reacted to a situation, then you are the architect of that pain. You are no longer a victim. And the moment you are no longer a victim, you also lose the luxury of complaining. This is a responsibility many are afraid to face. Being the sole person responsible for your own life, your own happiness, and your own misery. This is what true freedom is. Letting go of the obsession with managing the outside world, and becoming the wise ruler of that small but unshakable kingdom within. All other Stoic principles are built upon this foundation. Take this first step. Draw the borders of your own fortress. The rest will fall into place with time. 2. Reality and the story you made up. What would you say if I told you that what causes you to suffer is not the events that happen to you? Sounds absurd, doesn't it? I'm the one who got fired, I'm the one who got left, I'm the one who got sick. How can events not be what causes the pain, you might protest. And you'd be right to protest. Because your mind has been whispering the exact opposite to you for years. It tells you that the source of pain is always somewhere out there. A bad boss, a heartless lover, an unjust system. But here is the second great truth that Stoic philosophy offers you. None of the things that cause you to suffer are the events themselves. What causes you to suffer are the stories you tell yourself about those events. You are not a bundle of problems. You are a storyteller. And the trouble is, most of the stories you tell are horror films, and you always star in the lead role. To grasp this more deeply, let's think about how your mind works. An event occurs in the external world. This event is neutral, meaningless, unprocessed data, like a black and white, silent image recorded by a security camera. Then your mind steps in. It takes this silent, colorless footage and pulls it into its own editing room. It adds dramatic music. It adjusts the colors to the most painful tones. It adds close-ups, inserts slow motion. And finally, It presents this edited film to you as reality. And you watch this film in horror. The real tragedy is not created by that first innocent image. It is the exaggerated, dramatized film your mind produced from it. Let's use an example. You got fired. What is the raw, unfiltered version of the event? The employment contract between person X and company Y has been terminated. That's it. This is a security camera recording. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, what's in the film your mind directed? I'm incompetent. Years of effort were for nothing. I'll never amount to anything. Everyone will laugh at me. How will I pay my rent? I'll starve. My life is over. Do you see? A simple contract termination instantly turned into an existential apocalypse. The thing that gives you those stomach cramps, that brings those sleepless nights, that creates that depressive state. Is it the contract ending, or is it the disaster screenplay you wrote? You know the answer. Another example. You're about to give a speech in front of an audience. What is the security camera recording? One person will speak for 10 minutes in front of 20 people in a room. That's all. And the title of the film in your mind? 10 minutes of my destruction. What's in the trailer? Trembling hands, forgotten words, faces looking at you with contempt, mocking laughter. Before you've even stepped on stage, you've played this film hundreds of times in your mind, torturing yourself. The pain begins before the event. Why? Because you are not reacting to the event itself, but to the horror story you invented. You don't write these stories with words alone, you seal them with labels too. Your mind uses dangerous labels to simplify events and emotions. When you make a mistake, you don't say, I made a mistake. You say, I'm an idiot. You take yourself from a temporary action and imprison yourself in a permanent, negative identity. When your partner leaves you, you don't say, this relationship ended. You say, I was abandoned. I don't deserve to be loved. You turn a single event into proof of your entire existence. The Stoic practice is to abandon this exaggerated and toxic language and describe events as they are, in bare, objective language. If your partner left you, saying, you don't deserve to be loved, is a story. The reality is this. Two people made the decision to continue on their paths separately. That's it. This language doesn't eliminate the pain, but it makes it bearable. It removes the drama. So how will you break this cycle? This is an automatic process. The mind is programmed to tell stories. The solution lies in that simple but powerful technique the Stoics have practiced for thousands of years: pausing. When an event occurs and that first emotional reaction and disaster scenario storm your mind, don't switch to autopilot and start watching that film. Stop. Just for 1 second, stop. And in that 1 second gap, ask yourself these two questions. 1. What exactly happened here? Without exaggeration, without interpretation, what is the bare truth? 2. What is the story I am telling myself about what happened? The moment you ask these two questions, the magic happens. You separate the security camera recording from the film you directed yourself. In that moment, you take the power back. Because if you are the one who wrote the story, then you also have the power to rewrite it. You can erase that horror film and replace it with a more realistic, more constructive, even a lesson-learned story. Instead of the story, I got fired and therefore I am nothing, you can choose to write the story, I lost my job. This is an unpleasant situation. Now, how can I turn this into an opportunity to find work I actually love? This doesn't happen overnight. This is like training a muscle. Your mind has been writing the same dramatic stories for years. In the beginning, you will continue believing those stories. But every time you pause, every time you ask, you strengthen that muscle a little more. Over time, the 1 second gap you place between event and interpretation stretches to a minute, to 10 minutes, and that gap is your territory of freedom. Remember, life does not inflict pain upon you. Life only presents you with neutral events. What creates pain or peace is what you transform those events into in your mind's editing room. You are both the director and the lead actor of your own life's film. Stop telling yourself stories that cause you to suffer. Pick up the pen and write a better story. The power is in you. It always was. 3. Live as if you chose everything that happens to you. You've taken the first 2 steps. You now know that you cannot control most of the events in your life, and that what truly causes you to suffer are the toxic interpretations you attach to those events. This alone is a level of wisdom the vast majority of humanity will never reach. You are no longer screaming at the wind. You are no longer watching horror films of your own making and torturing yourself. This has made you a calmer, more resilient person. But this is not the end of the road. This is merely the level of reducing pain. The next step that Stoic philosophy offers you is the art of transforming pain into fuel. The name of this step is amor fati, meaning, love your fate. This idea sounds like an insult to the modern ear. What do you mean, love your fate? Submit to everything that goes wrong, passively accept everything? No, it is far more than that. This is not merely accepting what happens, it is embracing everything as if you yourself had chosen it, with open arms. This is not just staying on your feet in the storm, it is falling in love with the storm. Not just swallowing the medicine, but loving even the bitter taste of it. Because you know that bitter taste is what will heal you. Amor fati is the will to see everything life puts in your path, without exception, not as good or bad, but as a part of your personal growth, and to embrace it with passion. Think of this as a 3-level staircase. At the bottom step, there is rebellion, the level most of humanity lives at. This shouldn't have happened to me. This is unfair. Why me? This level is the swamp of pain and helplessness. You are in a constant war with reality, and you always lose this war. The second step is the level of acceptance, the level you learned in the first 2 chapters. This happened. It's not within my control. I cannot change it, so I must endure it. This is far wiser than rebelling. It greatly reduces pain, but there is still a resistance within. You clench your teeth and bear it. This is accepting the cold weather. The third and final step is amor fati, meaning greeting it with love. At this level, you say, this happened, and I'm glad it happened. If I had the chance to design my life from the very beginning, I would include this event, with all the pain and lessons it brought, exactly as it was in the script. This is not just accepting the cold weather, it is loving the sharpness, the freshness, the vitality that the cold brings. It is taking a walk in that cold and taking pleasure in feeling your lungs burn. Between these 3 levels, there are worlds of difference. One is slavery, one is patience, and the other is absolute mastery. But isn't this madness? How can you love a betrayal, an illness, a loss? This is the point where you need to shift your perspective. The Stoics viewed the universe as a single, vast organism. A flawless system where everything is connected to everything else by invisible threads. In this system, nothing is accidental or meaningless. Every event in your life is an indispensable piece of that immense puzzle. If you try to pull out a single event from your past, even the most painful one, the entire puzzle collapses. Because that painful event is what made you who you are today. That betrayal taught you to approach people more carefully. That failure gave you humility and the courage to try again. That illness showed you how precious life is and that every healthy moment is a gift. Without those bad events in your past, you would not possess the wisdom, the strength, and the character you have today. Therefore, to wish you could change something in your past is to wish you could destroy who you are today. Amor fati requires precisely this holistic perspective. Life is not doing things to you. Life is transforming you into something. Every event that befalls you is a chisel strike used to sculpt your character. Some strikes hurt terribly, yes, but without those strikes, no masterpiece emerges from that block of marble. You are that sculpture, and life is the sculptor. Amor fati is trusting and loving every strike of the sculptor's hand. How will you apply this in daily life? This is an act of mental reprogramming. When an unwanted situation befalls you, notice your mind's first reaction of rebellion and, "Why me?" Then, with a conscious decision, silence that reaction and replace it with this sentence: "This was necessary. This is good. I would have chosen this." In the beginning, this will feel like a lie to you. Your emotions will rebel against it. But keep repeating it. Did your car break down? Wonderful. This is a lesson showing me how dependent I am on plans and how helpless I become in the face of the unexpected. I needed to learn this lesson. I would have chosen this. Did you get caught in the rain? Perfect. This is an opportunity to step out of my comfort zone and remember the power of nature. Getting wet won't kill me. On the contrary, it makes me more resilient. I would have chosen this. This practice, over time, changes your mind's default setting. You begin to see events not as bad things that happen to me, but as training sessions placed before me to develop my character. And do you know what happens when a person begins to see everything before them as a part of their own growth? They become invincible. How could you possibly break them? Every stone you throw at them becomes material they use to fortify their own fortress. Every pain you inflict becomes a lesson for them to grow even wiser. This is the pinnacle of Stoicism. Not escaping the world, but embracing every particle of it. Not waiting for problems to end, but seeing the problems themselves as a blessing. This is the supreme freedom a human being can attain. The freedom in that moment when you stop trying to flee your fate and begin to waltz with it. You stop suffering. Because within every pain, you find a purpose. And a person who has purpose never breaks. They only transform. 4. Remember that you can die at any moment. Now I am going to talk to you about that one word nobody wants to discuss. The one that makes everyone change the subject the moment they hear it. Death. The modern world tries to keep this truth hidden like a secret. Anti-aging creams, never-ending diets, cosmetic surgeries, they are all parts of the same purposeless effort. Trying to outsmart death, running from it, pretending it doesn't exist. We treat death as a failure, a disease, something shameful to speak of. But for the Stoics, death was not an enemy. It was the most honest, most ruthless, and most effective life coach. Instead of running from death, they had coffee with it every single day. Because they knew that the surest way to learn how to live is to never forget that life will one day end. Memento mori, they said. Meaning, remember that you will die. If this idea strikes you as dark and suffocating, there is only one reason. You have not yet understood its power. We live as though we have infinite time. This is our greatest and most tragic illusion. Our minds are filled with dreams stuffed into a drawer labeled, "I'll do it later." One day, I'll start my own business. One day, I'll write that book. One day I'll call my mother and tell her how much I love her. But is that one day written on any calendar? Is there any guarantee that this time period called later will be given to you? There isn't. That later is the most dangerous lie your mind invented to keep you distracted. By believing that lie, you are spending that precious and limited capital called life for absolutely nothing. Think about what you spend your time on. Picture your last week. How many hours did you spend scrolling through the lives of strangers on social media? How many hours did you waste on empty arguments and gossip that served you no purpose whatsoever? How many hours did you throw away mourning an event that is long over, or worrying about a future that may never come? On the last day of your life, as you draw your final breath in your bed, are you going to say, "I wish I had looked at more vacation photos," or "I wish I had gotten the last word in that pointless argument"? No. On that day, you will only feel regret for the things you didn't do, the things you postponed, the things you ran from because you were afraid. This is what memento mori is, an antidote used to prevent that future regret from today. It whispers to you at every moment, time is running out. Stop wasting it on foolish things and do what truly matters. Accepting the existence of death doesn't only help you set your priorities, it also sets you free. Especially from those small, everyday fears of yours. Are you afraid of opening up to someone? Of being rejected? Of looking foolish in front of people? How comically insignificant all of these are next to the absolute and immense reality of death. Think about it. What is the worst that can happen? You get rejected, you feel embarrassed, maybe you feel a little sad. And then what? Life goes on. But death is the final curtain. There is no coming back. From this perspective, most of life's risks are not even risks at all. They are tiny possibilities exaggerated by our fragile ego. The inevitability of death gives you the courage you've been searching for. Because what do you have to lose? You are going to lose everything eventually anyway. So why not take a step right now toward the life you want? Paradoxically, remembering that you will die makes life more vivid and more delicious. Because when you know something is limited, you value it more. The taste of the coffee you drink every day becomes more meaningful, because you know that one day it will be your last cup. A conversation with a friend becomes deeper, because the possibility that it could be the last one lingers in the corner of your mind. You watch a sunset as if you may never see one again. Memento mori does not cast a curtain of gloom over life. On the contrary, it lifts that curtain and lets you see how radiant, how precious, how enormous a gift every moment is. Eternity is boring. What gives life its magnificent flavor and urgency is the fact that it has an expiration date. So how will you carry this practice into your life? This does not mean going to a cemetery every day and wallowing in melancholy. This is a mental adjustment. Emperor Marcus Aurelius would remind himself in his journal every morning, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, what you think, and what you say." You can do this too. Set a daily alarm on your phone at the same time each day and write just this as the alarm text: "You are going to die." That momentary jolt is enough to make the rest of your day more meaningful. Or a gentler method: do the things you do as if you were doing them for the last time. When you speak with your mother, listen as if this could be your last conversation with her. When you eat your meal, focus on the flavors as if this could be the last meal you ever eat. This doesn't drown you in sorrow, it brings you to the present moment. It stops the endless ping-pong match your mind plays between past and future and forces you to be fully here and now. Remember, memento mori is not a philosophy about dying. On the contrary, it is about living fully. It is consciously taking the wheel of your life and switching off autopilot. It is grasping that your time is flowing like an hourglass and that every single grain of sand is priceless. If this truth doesn't invigorate you, then you are still asleep. Death is the greatest teacher. It gives you only one lesson: there is no time. Live. 5. Prepare for the best by imagining the worst. What I am about to tell you is like a stick of dynamite placed at the foundation of today's fraudulent positive thinking industry. What does that industry tell you? Only think good thoughts. Send good energy to the universe. Everything will be wonderful. This is the most dangerous fairy tale ever told to an adult. This is sending you into battle with a shield made of cotton candy. At the first blow, that is, life's inevitable first punch, that shield shatters and you are left defenseless. Because they only told you about sunny days. They never taught you how to prepare for the storm. The Stoics did the exact opposite. They knew that the secret to happiness and an unshakable state of mind lay not in hoping everything would go well, but in calmly imagining everything going as badly as possible. They called this premeditatio malorum, meaning the premeditation of evils. This idea is entirely different from the never-ending what-if cycle of an anxious mind. Anxiety is emotional, chaotic, and uncontrolled, a storm of fear spinning in your head, offering you no solutions. Premeditatio malorum, on the other hand, is a controlled, rational, and strategic mental exercise. This is like conducting a fire drill. Who is safer when the fire alarm goes off? The person running around in panic? Or the person who has done the drill countless times before, memorized the escape routes, and calmly knows exactly what to do? The answer is obvious. The Stoics conducted a mental drill every single day against life's inevitable fires. They knew that hoping was not a strategy. Being prepared was. So how will you perform this mental drill? This does not mean locking yourself in a room and spiraling into depression by building disaster scenarios for hours. This is a sharp focusing exercise that takes only 5 minutes of your morning. Here is how it works. First, choose something in your life that you value and are afraid of losing. It could be your job, your health, your money, a person you love. Now close your eyes and imagine losing that thing in all its rawness. Don't just think about it. Feel it. Are you imagining losing your job? Feel the moment you clear your desk, the last conversation with your boss, the wave of nausea as you think about how you'll break the news to your family on the way home. Dive into that feeling of uncertainty. Don't run from the fear. On the contrary, walk toward it. The first stage of this mental simulation is uncomfortable, yes, but the real magic begins after that. While you are inside that worst-case scenario, ask yourself these 2 rational questions. First, if this actually happened to me, what concrete steps would I take to deal with it? The answers begin to come. I would update my resume. I would cut my expenses. I would reach out to people in my field. Maybe I would live in a smaller apartment for a while. Do you see? What appeared to be an absolute catastrophe suddenly turned into a series of solvable problems. Fear's greatest power comes from uncertainty. The moment you approach it with an action plan, that power evaporates. Second question, what is one single step I could take today to prevent this from happening or to reduce its impact? Maybe learning a new skill, maybe setting aside a little more money, maybe strengthening relationships at work. In that moment, fear transforms from an emotion that paralyzes you into fuel that propels you into action. Instead of worrying, you begin preparing. And when you open your eyes at the end of this 5-minute exercise, what happens? You suddenly realize you haven't lost your job. Your desk is still right there. Your health is intact. Your loved ones are by your side. Everything you took for granted 5 minutes ago, everything whose existence you had forgotten, suddenly begins to look like priceless gifts. This is the fastest and most powerful effect of premeditatio malorum, gratitude. The surest way to understand the value of something is to imagine losing it. This practice rescues you from that insatiable, I want more mentality and carries you to the, how valuable the things I already have are mentality. This is a form of psychological vaccination. You inject a weakened microbe into your body so that when the real microbe arrives, your immune system is prepared. With this exercise, you inject weakened versions of catastrophes into your mind. So when a real catastrophe knocks on your door, your mind does not go into a state of shock and panic, because it has seen that scenario before. It says, I know this film, and calmly activates the action plan. While everyone else is running around in panic, you become that calm person who knows exactly what to do. So set aside that hollow and fragile philosophy that always tells you to think positive. Life is too real and sometimes too ruthless to be fooled by positive thinking. Don't build your house on a foundation of sandcastle optimism that could collapse at any moment. Build your house on the unshakable bedrock of reality, accounting for the worst storms and the most violent earthquakes. This does not make you pessimistic. This does not make you cynical. This makes you an invincible realist, one who is prepared for everything and grateful for everything they have. 6. The stone in your path is the path you must walk. Do you think your life, that perfect, smooth, trouble-free journey you designed in your head, is constantly being sabotaged by annoying obstacles that appear in your way? You start a project. Just as you're gaining momentum, a crisis erupts. You start a relationship. Just as everything is going wonderfully, an old problem resurfaces. Just when you're about to find financial relief, an unexpected expense appears. And every single time, you have the same reaction. Why though? Just when everything was falling into place, where did this come from? You feel as though life is personally messing with you, making a special effort to block your happiness. This is the most common and most debilitating perspective, and it is completely wrong. One of the most revolutionary lessons Stoic philosophy will teach you is this: those obstacles appearing before you are not there to block your path. Those obstacles themselves are the very path you must walk. This idea is hard to digest. because we love to imagine life as a straight line going from one point to another. But life is not a straight line. Life is rugged terrain. And you are a traveler trying to make your way across it. A traveler who rebels when a massive boulder appears before them, who curses fate, who screams, "What is this rock doing here?" Stays exactly where they are and burns out in agony, because they spend their energy fighting against a reality they cannot change, namely the existence of the rock. The wise traveler reads the situation differently. They see the rock not as an obstacle, but as a new phase of the journey. They understand that the road is no longer flat. The road now requires climbing over that rock, finding a new trail around it, or developing a tool to break it into smaller pieces. The rock itself defines the next task. The obstacle determines the action plan. The path runs through the obstacle. Once you adopt this perspective, you stop being a victim and become a strategist, an adventurer. Life ceases to be a force working against you. It transforms into a partner working with you, shaping your character. This is a form of mental alchemy, the art of turning worthless lead into gleaming gold. So how will you perform this alchemy? Through a three-step process. First, perception. When an obstacle strikes, control that first panic-driven emotional reaction. Stop slapping dramatic labels on the situation like catastrophe, crisis, the beginning of the end. Simply look at what objectively happened. The project was cancelled. I lost my money. My leg is broken. These are raw facts stripped of emotional weight. Instead of seeing the event as a catastrophe, simply see it as a new situation. This shift in perception turns off the panic button and turns on the logic button. Second step, action. Once you have your perception under control, ask yourself this question. Given this new situation, what is the smallest, most concrete step I can take right now? The goal is not to move the mountain all at once. The goal is to break the inertia by moving just one pebble. Did your project get cancelled? Instead of sitting down and crying, you say, I can write down what I learned from this project. That is an action. Did you break your leg? Instead of saying, I'll stare at the ceiling all day, you say, since I can't move, I can finally read that book I've been wanting to read for so long. That too is an action. Instead of being paralyzed by the size of the obstacle, you begin to move within that tiny area you can control. Movement creates momentum. Momentum destroys helplessness. Third and final step, will. You took action, you did what you could. But the outcome may still not be what you wanted. This is where the unshakable will you learned from a more fatty kicks in. You accept the outcome. You find the lesson, the meaning, and the growth hidden within that experience. In failure, you learn humility. In betrayal, you learn self-sufficiency. In loss, you learn the value of life's fragility. No experience, as long as you assign meaning to it, is ever wasted. Think of life as a gym. Nobody goes to the gym because the weights are light. On the contrary, they go because the weights are challenging, because they tear and strain the muscles, because they know that growth lives within that resistance. At the end of that pain, there is strength. Life is the gym for your character. Every obstacle you encounter is a weight designed to work a different muscle of your soul. A difficult person works your patience muscle. A financial hardship works your creativity and frugality muscle. An unexpected illness works your resilience and gratitude muscle. A life without obstacles is like never exercising and waiting for your muscles to wither. It leads to a spiritual collapse, an atrophy. So the next time you face an obstacle, instead of whining, "Why me?" ask, which muscle is it time to train? As Marcus Aurelius said, a blazing fire makes everything that is thrown into it its own fuel. From it, it creates an even greater flame and brilliance. A weak mind is like a small candle flame. The slightest breeze of difficulty snuffs it out. A stoic mind aims to be like a wildfire. A fire so fierce that, whatever you throw into it, anger, disappointment, failure, betrayal, it takes it all and burns even hotter, transforming into an even brighter, even more powerful blaze. The obstacle does not stop the fire. The obstacle feeds it. Your task is not to be a candle hiding from the wind, but to become that fire that uses everything in its path as fuel. 7. Life's true scorecard. If I asked you, what is a good life? What would you answer? Probably these things come to mind. Plenty of money, a luxury car, a house by the sea, a trouble-free relationship, a healthy and fit body, a career where everyone respects you. The modern world sells you the formula for happiness through this list. You spend your entire life trying to put a checkmark next to every item on it. But what if I told you that this entire list is garbage to a Stoic sage? Not just worthless, but a dangerous trap? The time has come for you to meet the hardest, most radical, and most liberating idea in Stoic philosophy. There is only one good thing in life, and that is a virtuous character. There is only one bad thing in life, and that is a corrupt, rotten character. Everything else, and I mean everything, is merely a detail. This idea might short-circuit every wire in your brain, because it is the exact opposite of everything you've been taught. The Stoics divided the world into 3. First, things that are good, virtues such as wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Second, things that are bad, vices such as ignorance, injustice, cowardice, and excess. Third, and the largest category, things to be indifferent to. Everything on your good life list falls into this last category. Money, health, beauty, fame, pain, illness, even life and death themselves are neither good nor bad in Stoic philosophy. They are morally neutral. So what does this mean? Does it mean being healthy doesn't matter? Of course it does. The Stoics were not fools. They too separated these neutral things into preferred and dispreferred. Naturally, you prefer health over illness, wealth over poverty. That is only natural. The truly fatal mistake is believing that these preferred things are good. Believing that money, health, or a good relationship will bring you happiness. Because none of these things are fully within your control. And the moment you tie your happiness to something you cannot control, you turn yourself into a leaf tossed about by life's winds. When the storm hits, you are torn to pieces. Think of life as a card game. At the start of the game, you are dealt a hand of cards. These cards are things you cannot control. The family you were born into, your genetics, your physical appearance, the state of your country. These are your indifferent starting conditions. You may get a bad hand, yes. But is the winner of the game determined by the cards dealt? Or by the skill of the player who plays them? A skilled player can turn the game around even with a bad hand. A novice loses even with the best cards. Your virtues are that skill of playing the game. Your courage, your wisdom, your justice. The true purpose of life is not to pray for better cards, but to become a better player no matter what cards you hold. Society constantly tells you to chase better cards. Stoic philosophy advises you, forget the cards, improve your game. Why? Why is virtue this important? Because it is the only thing no storm in the external world can rip away from you. You can lose your money. You can lose your health. Your reputation can be destroyed overnight. Your loved ones can leave you. But your choice to be honest, to be courageous, to be just, is always in your hands. In the darkest dungeon, in the most painful illness, in the face of the greatest injustice, no one can stop you from acting with virtue. If you tie your happiness to your bank account or the applause of others, you live in constant fear of losing it. But if you tie your happiness to the solidity of your own character, you become unshakable. True self-respect does not come from praise received from the outside. It comes from the quiet, deep peace of being able to look in the mirror at the end of the day and say, "Today was hard, but I still did what was right." There is no currency in existence that can buy this peace. So what is this virtue that sounds so abstract? The Stoics broke it down into 4 fundamental parts. First, wisdom. Knowing what is good, what is bad, and what is merely a detail. It is the ability to make exactly the distinction we are discussing in this chapter. It is seeing the world clearly, without filters, and rationally. Second, justice. This is not just courtroom justice. It is being honest, fair, and compassionate toward other people. It is understanding that they, too, are human beings fighting their own battles just like you. It is not gossiping, not taking what isn't yours, and contributing something good to society. Third, courage. This is not fearlessness. It is doing what is right despite being afraid. Not just against physical danger, but moral courage. The courage to have a difficult conversation, the courage to defend an unpopular idea, the courage to admit your own mistake. Fourth, temperance, or moderation. It is the art of self-control. Being the master of your desires rather than their slave. Avoiding excess in eating, spending, anger, and laziness. Finding balance and discipline in every area of life. This is life's true scorecard. The world may grade you based on your bank statement, the model of your car, or your follower count. Let it. That is a game played by fools. The scorecard you should be keeping is a different one. There is only one question you need to ask yourself at the end of each day. Did I act wisely today? Was I just? Did I take a courageous step? Did I act with moderation? If you can answer yes to even one of those questions, you have won that day. No matter what happens outside, whether you lose money, get criticized, or fall ill, as long as you are winning on your own internal scorecard, you are invincible. Because it means you have understood the true purpose of life. Not to have more, but to be more. 8. Play the role assigned to you. When someone asks you, what is the purpose of your life? You most likely give those bland answers the modern world has chewed into cliché. To be happy, to realize myself, to follow my passions. They sound so pleasant, don't they? But all of these goals are selfish, fragile, and will ultimately leave you in a void. Stoic philosophy offers you a far harsher, far heavier, but also far more meaningful purpose. It tells you, the purpose of your life is not to make yourself happy. The purpose of your life is to play the roles assigned to you in this life, without complaining for a single moment, without whining for a single second, to the best of your ability. You are an actor, and life is a stage. The role that falls to you may sometimes be a tragedy, sometimes a comedy. You did not choose your role, but how you play it is entirely in your hands. Peace is not hidden in chasing your passions, it is hidden in the quiet, deep satisfaction of fulfilling your duty. This idea of duty is repulsive to a generation raised on, be free, do whatever you feel like. Because duty means responsibility. And responsibility is a heavy burden. But the real burden is a life without purpose and with no clear role. Like a tree with no roots, you topple over at the slightest breeze. The Stoics saw life as a series of concentric circles. In the innermost circle, there is you. In an outer circle, your family. Then your relatives, your neighbors, your fellow citizens. And in the outermost circle, all of humanity. Your duty is to stand at the center of each of these circles and fulfill your responsibilities to that circle flawlessly. This gives your life a structure, a backbone, and a meaning. Let's start with the innermost circle. Your duty to yourself. This does not mean pampering yourself or relaxing with luxury massages. This means being a ruthless but fair commander of your own mind and body. Training your mind, as we discussed in earlier chapters, like a warrior is your duty. Allowing it to become a dumping ground for uncontrolled emotions, meaningless anxieties, and toxic thoughts is the greatest betrayal you can commit against yourself. You have a duty to your body as well. You must see it not as a toy you chase pleasures with, but as a sacred trust that carries your soul. Poisoning it with junk food, rotting it with sleeplessness, rusting it with inactivity, is sabotaging with your own hands a vehicle that was given to you to serve you. Drowning your potential in the swamp of laziness and procrastination is a sin committed against nature. A person who fails in this first duty to themselves has zero chance of succeeding in the other circles. First, you will sweep your own front step. Let's move to the second and most challenging circle. Your duty to your family. I can almost hear your mind immediately jumping to defense. But my family is so difficult. But my mother never understands me. But my father always pressured me. The Stoic answer is this: so what? Your duty does not depend on them being perfect parents. Your duty is to play the role of a good child despite all their flaws and difficulties. This does not mean blind obedience. It means showing them respect, caring for them as they age, showing patience with their old-fashioned thinking. You cannot control their behavior. That is outside your domain. But your own behavior is within your control. When they yell at you, you can choose to respond calmly. That is your virtue. When they criticize you, you can choose to see it not as a personal attack but as a reflection of their own fears. That is your wisdom. If you are a parent, your duty is even heavier. Your duty is not to raise a happy child. That is one of the modern world's most short-sighted goals. Your duty is to raise a moral, resilient, and virtuous adult who can stand on their own 2 feet in this life. And this often requires making decisions your child will not like. It requires saying no, setting boundaries, giving responsibility, allowing them to fail. Trying to protect them inside a bubble against life's inevitable hardships is the greatest harm you can do to them. Because when that bubble breaks one day, your child will be left defenseless and exposed. Being a good parent does not mean being a popular parent. Are you in the role of a spouse or a partner? Your duty is not to find your soulmate and be completed by them. No one can complete you. Your duty is what you bring to the relationship. Being a reliable, honest, supportive, loyal partner. Instead of constantly calculating, what am I getting? It is asking, what am I giving? A relationship is not a marketplace. It is a shared garden. Your duty is to constantly carry fertilizer to that garden, water it, and pull the weeds. You hope the other person does the same. But whether they do or don't is not within your control. You are responsible only for your own gardening duty. Let's expand the circles. Your duty to society. To the apartment building you live in, to your street, to your city. Not littering, not disturbing your neighbors, doing your work honestly. These seem like small things. But when millions of people fulfill these small duties, civilization emerges. Instead of constantly complaining, where is the government? Asking, what am I doing as a citizen? Is the Stoic approach. Because you are not a passive consumer of that society. You are an active cell within it. Your actions either strengthen that body or poison it. And the outermost circle, your duty to all of humanity. This is the most abstract but most important role. The Stoics saw themselves as citizens not just of a city or a country, but of the entire universe. What does this mean? It means understanding that every human being, regardless of their skin color, language, or religion, is a part of you. A person suffering on the other side of the world today is your distant relative. Your duty is to harbor at least a basic sense of decency and justice toward them. To shed your prejudices, to strip away that primitive us versus them divide. The waiter who brings you your coffee, the janitor who cleans the office, a refugee you see on the street, showing all of them the fundamental respect they are owed simply for being human is your duty. Because you are a member of that great family called humanity, and this role places a greater responsibility on you than all your other roles combined. Life is a chain of duties. This chain is not there to strangle you. It is there to give you something to hold on to. Instead of drifting in a meaningless void, it brings structure, order, and purpose to your life. Happiness is a byproduct that emerges while you fulfill these duties. It can never be the goal itself. The goal is the deep, unshakable satisfaction of looking at all the roles you played at the end of the day and being able to say, today I did the best I could. I tried to be a good child, a good mother or father, a good neighbor, and a good human being. That is what true peace is. Now ask yourself, which of your roles can you play a little better today? Stop complaining and simply do your duty. 9. Rise like an eagle and look down upon everything. You are living your life with a magnifying glass glued to the tip of your nose. And under that magnifying glass, there is only one thing, yourself. Your own troubles, your own desires, your own disappointments, the injustices done to you. Your entire world consists of what you see through this tiny, suffocating lens. There is so much noise inside your mind that you cannot hear anything besides your own voice. You think your own drama is the most important event in the universe. The person you're arguing with at this moment is the worst person in the world. The problem bothering you at this moment is the world's greatest problem. This narrow, claustrophobic perspective is the source of all your anxiety, all your anger, and all that never-ending me pain. Because you are a wretch who has placed himself at the center of the universe. Stoic philosophy offers you an escape route from this mental prison. It tells you, for a moment, put that magnifying glass down and begin to rise like an eagle. This is a mental rocket launch practice called the cosmic perspective. Let us do this together now. From wherever you are sitting or lying right now, from that room where you wrestle with your troubles, imagine slowly rising. You pass through the ceiling. There are no barriers. Look down at yourself. Look at that tiny body, that worried face. How serious they look. How important they think their current problem is. Maybe they're thinking about a bill. Maybe they're hung up on something someone said. From up here, how insignificant it all looks, doesn't it? How tragicomic. Keep rising. You see the roof of your house, your street, your neighborhood. There's the road you take to work every day. There's that neighbor, the one who annoys you. There's that grocery store, the one where the cashier made a remark and you let it poison your whole day. From this height, they all look like model houses. What does your anger in that moment, your resentment in that moment, even mean within this model city? Rise even higher. The entire city is beneath your feet. Lights, buildings, roads. Millions of people, millions of small lives. Behind every window, just like you, there is a person who believes they are the lead in the world's most important drama. One is being left, another is getting promoted. One is being born, another is dying. Millions of personal tragedies and triumphs, all happening simultaneously. Your unbearable pain in that moment is just one of those millions of stories. No more important, no less important. Just one of them. Keep rising. You see the borders of your country, the mountains, the rivers. Those people you fought over, those people you separated as not one of us, where are they? From this height, there are no borders left, no flags, no divisions. Just similar-looking people wandering over the same piece of land. Rise even higher. You are now beyond the atmosphere. You see your planet, that blue marble. Oceans, clouds, continents. All of human history, all the wars, all the love, all the inventions. Everything happened on that tiny silent sphere. Your life that you thought was so grand is taking place on an invisible speck of dust on the surface of that sphere. Keep rising. Past the moon, past the planets, leave the sun behind as a ball of light. You are inside the Milky Way galaxy. You are on a speck of dust orbiting just one of 100 billion stars. And in the universe, there are 100 billion other galaxies just like yours. Now think about time. Think about the 13 billion year history of the universe. The infinite time that existed before you. The infinite time that will exist after you. Your 80-year, precious, one-of-a-kind life. What is it within this infinite ocean of time? Not even a moment. A flicker that lasts less than the blink of an eye. Now from that perspective, from within that cosmic void, look at yourself and your troubles again. That promotion you lost sleep over, that breakup that shattered your heart, that remark that wounded your pride. What do they mean within this cosmic symphony? Nothing. Absolute nothing. This is the cosmic perspective. And when you gain this perspective, 3 fundamental transformations occur within you. First, your ego evaporates. That bloated sense of self that takes everything personally, that believes everything revolves around it, cannot exist in this cosmic void. Your wounded pride, your bruised honor, your desire to be proven right, all of them instantly become meaningless and comical. This does not make you feel worthless. On the contrary, it frees you from the heavy and exhausting burden of thinking you are important. You become liberated. Second, a genuine empathy is born. When you look down from above at that frantic ant colony on the blue marble, you do not see enemies or strangers. You see only fellow travelers. Fellow travelers living on the same small rock, with the same fundamental fears and hopes, heading toward the same end. In that moment, holding a grudge against someone, hating someone, becomes difficult. It occurs to you that the man who cut you off in traffic might be a worried father trying to reach his sick child. Differences become insignificant. The common denominator of shared humanity rises above everything. Third, your definition of a problem changes forever. After this mental journey, those small daily annoyances in everyday life cease to be problems for you. They are merely small matters to be handled. You have seen what a real problem is, and that is meaninglessly wasting your brief life in the face of the universe's infinity. Now slowly come back. Leave the galaxies, the stars, our planet behind you and descend back to your city, your street, your home, your body. But when you return, do not return as the same person. The purpose of this exercise is not to disconnect from life and live like a monk. The purpose is to carry that cosmic perspective, that eagle's gaze, into your everyday life. You will still be stuck in that traffic. You will still deal with that difficult person. But you will no longer see any of it through that narrow, selfish magnifying glass. You will see them with the calm, detached gaze of a sage who knows the vastness of the universe and the brevity of their own life. You are here to play the role given to you on a tiny stage within this immense theater. But never again will you fall into the illusion that the stage is the entire theater. Your troubles are not your prison, they are merely props you use to play your part. 10. Tame the animals within you. Now I am going to tell you who your greatest enemy is. That enemy is not the coworker conspiring against you, not the partner who left you, not the unjust system. The greatest, most dangerous, and most life-sabotaging enemy lives inside the reflection you see in the mirror every morning. That enemy is the thing you trust most, believe to be most real, and defend most fiercely, your own uncontrolled emotions. You market them like a virtue, saying, "I act on what I feel, I'm an honest person." But they are internal terrorists, puppeteering you like a marionette, robbing you of your senses at the most critical moments, capable of leveling in an instant the things you spent years building. Anger, fear, desire. These three are bandits that have seized control of your mind's government, and you don't even realize you are their prisoner. Stoic philosophy teaches you how to fight these bandits. It shows you how to tame those animals within and how to reclaim your rightful seat on the throne of your own mind. Let's start with the loudest, most destructive, and most beloved of these bandits, anger. Anger makes you feel very powerful, doesn't it? When you feel that hot, burning sensation in your veins, you believe you are righteous and invincible. As if in that moment, every truth in the universe is on your side. This is the greatest lie anger sells you. Anger is not strength. Anger is a state of madness in which your reason has temporarily gone on vacation. Think about the decisions you've made while angry. Remember the words that left your mouth in those moments. The impulsive steps you took. What was the result? Regret, shame, a relationship in need of repair. Anger promises you instant gratification, but it always hands you the bill with interest. When you look through a stoic lens, you see that anger is born from a single source nearly every time, a violated expectation. Reality refusing to conform to your arrogant expectations. You expected traffic to flow, but it didn't. You expected respect from the other person, but got criticism instead. You expected life to go the way you wanted, but it didn't. And you, because reality didn't cater to your pleasure, started throwing a tantrum like a child. Anger is your spoiled ego having a seizure, screaming, "Things should have gone my way." Who pays the price for this seizure? You do. Always. As Seneca said, anger resembles a ruin that collapses upon the very thing it crushes beneath it. In that moment you think you're crushing the other person, but you are actually tearing down the walls of your own soul. Your stress hormones spike. Your heart tightens. Your logic shuts down. The person you're angry at might forget the whole thing 5 minutes later and move on with their life. But you circulate that poison inside yourself for hours, even days. Anger is the poison you drink hoping someone else will die, and that poison kills only you. So how will you neutralize this powerful poison? The Stoics have a toolkit for this. The first and most powerful tool: delay. The moment you feel anger's initial heat, do nothing. Say nothing. Stop. Save the email you're about to send as a draft and wait 24 hours. Swallow those final words you're about to say and leave the room. Time is the greatest enemy of mindless anger. When you read that message 24 hours later, you won't believe how childish and destructive it looks. The second tool: deconstruction. In that pause, ask yourself, what exactly angered me? Is it that this person called me incompetent, or is it the meaning of "I am worthless" that I attached to that word? Will this event matter one bit in 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 years? These questions lift the dramatic fog off the event, and all that remains is a bare, manageable reality. The third tool: empathy. Try to put yourself in the shoes of the person you believe wronged you. Maybe they're having a terrible day. Maybe they're ignorant. Maybe their intentions weren't bad, they were simply clumsy. This does not mean approving of their behavior. This means shifting from seeing the event as a personal attack to seeing it as one human being's flawed action. This is the perspective that diffuses anger's fuse. Let's move to the other two bandits: fear and desire. They are not as loud as anger, but they are at least as dangerous. Fear is suffering today from the pain of a future that hasn't happened yet. It feeds on your mind's what-if vines. The Stoic does not try to be fearless. That is impossible. The Stoic tries to fear the right things. They fear losing their character. They fear acting unjustly. They fear laziness. But they do not fear what people will think of them: losing money, failing, or death. Because all of these are either outside their control or a natural part of life. We already discussed the best weapon against fear: memento mori and premeditatio malorum. A mind that has already contemplated the worst-case scenario and remembers it could die at any moment does not easily surrender to petty worldly fears. Desire is the other side of the coin. Uncontrolled desire is the illusion that happiness always lies somewhere outside, in something you don't yet possess. If I get that car, I'll be happy. If I get that promotion, my life will improve. If that person loves me, I'll be complete. This is like chasing a mirage in the desert. When you get there, you find there is nothing, and your mind immediately spots a new mirage on the horizon. This is a never-ending cycle of dissatisfaction. The Stoic does not try to become desireless. The Stoic redirects their desires toward the right targets. They desire wisdom, they desire justice, they desire courage, because these are internal treasures that, once gained, can never be lost. Against external things, they use desire's antidote: gratitude. Instead of wanting a new phone, being grateful that the phone you have right now does its job. Instead of dreaming of a bigger house, being thankful that you have a roof over your head. The easiest way to get what you want is to want what you already have. Here are the three great bandits in your mind. Anger makes you a prisoner of the past. Fear, an inmate of the future. Desire, a restless slave of the present moment. An undisciplined mind is pulled in every direction between these three masters. It never finds peace. Emotional discipline is taming these three wild animals one by one. You learn to draw lessons from the past without anger. You prepare for the future without fear. And you appreciate the present moment without craving more, exactly as it is. This is not becoming numb. This is attaining an unshakable inner peace. Instead of being a small boat wrestling waves in a stormy sea, it is becoming that calm, eternally still body of water in the depths of the ocean. It is ceasing to be a puppet and taking the strings into your own hands. 11. Tear off the labels in your mind. Your mind is a liar. Not just a liar, it is also a master marketer. It is constantly trying to sell you events as far bigger, far more glamorous, or far more terrifying than they actually are. It markets a simple dinner as an unforgettable gastronomic experience. It markets your boss's furrowed brow as the end of your career. It markets a newly released phone as the key to happiness. Your mind constantly plasters exaggerated, emotional, and often fraudulent labels onto reality. All your suffering, all your insatiable desires, and all your meaningless fears stem from believing these fake labels. You are not living with the events themselves, but with the flashy, deceptive labels your mind has stuck onto them. One of the most surgical practices Stoic philosophy will teach you is to peel off these labels one by one and have the courage to look at the bare, plain truth underneath. This is a deconstruction, an art of breaking things apart. Taking the things your mind sells you as a fantasy and calmly, as if in a laboratory, separating them into their basic components. Let's begin. That latest luxury car you admire, the one you'd be willing to spend years and go into debt for. What is your mind selling you? Success, status, power, allure, respect. Now let's pop the hood and look inside. What is really there? Metal, plastic, glass, wires, and a bit of flammable liquid. A machine designed to take you from one point to another, which will rust and break down over time. That's all. That thing you call status is not inside the metal. It is a virtual meaning that you and society have loaded onto that metal. The moment you see this truth, the magical layer of hypnosis over the car melts away. You can still prefer to own it, that is natural. But you are no longer its slave, because you know what it is, which is simply a machine. Think about those flawless lives you see on social media. Those magnificent vacations, those wonderful relationships, those expensive meals. What does your mind tell you? Their life is perfect. Mine is lacking. I should be there too. Now let's peel the labels off those photos. What is that dreamlike vacation photo? Perhaps behind it lies a 10-hour flight delay, a string of arguments, and hours spent capturing just that one single frame, a filtered moment. What is that loving couple's photo? Perhaps it's the performance of two people who were screaming at each other 5 minutes earlier but posed for social media. What is that gourmet meal? The dead muscle tissue of an animal, the roots and leaves of a few plants ripped from the earth, and a bit of crushed and fermented grape juice. Marcus Aurelius would mentally deconstruct Rome's most magnificent feasts exactly this way. Was his goal to ruin the enjoyment of life? No. His goal was to avoid falling into the trap of false desire and envy that his mind created. His goal was to experience the unshakable freedom that comes from seeing things as they are. This method does not only neutralize the things you desire, it also draws the venom from the things you fear and the things that upset you. What happens when someone insults you? Your mind immediately plasters on these labels: attack, disrespect, my honor is violated, I've been humiliated. And as a reaction to these labels, you become angry, sad, and think about it for days. Now let's describe the event in its bare, label-free form. What actually happened? Sound waves produced by the vibrating vocal cords of another human being traveled through air molecules and reached your eardrum. Your brain interpreted these physical vibrations according to a grammatical rule it learned previously. That's all. The physical reality is nothing more than this. Where is the attack? Where is the honor? All of them are dramatic interpretations your mind added after the fact to this simple physical event. When you refuse to make that interpretation, the power of those words to wound you also disappears. Sound is just sound. It is your own mind that turns it into a bullet. This objective perspective becomes your greatest savior during life's crisis moments. Imagine a major disaster happens at work. Everyone is in a panic. Your mind immediately starts writing the worst-case scenarios. Stop. Cut that mental noise and ask yourself, if we peel off the labels, what exactly happened here? The answer is perhaps, the wrong product was shipped to a customer. Do you see? When the catastrophe label is peeled off, all that remains is a simple, technical problem that needs solving. Panic gives way to an action plan. The customer is apologized to, the correct product is sent, and the process is reviewed to prevent this error from recurring. Done. No hysteria needed. This does not mean turning into an emotionless robot. You can feel sad, yes. You can suffer after a loss. But you experience the pain as it is, in its pure form, without the hysterical layers your mind adds to it, like, my life is over, I will never be happy again. You can enjoy a delicious meal, yes, but you love it because it is simply a tasty meal, for its reality, not because it promises you a false sense of status. This is a form of mental hygiene. It is the daily practice of scrubbing off the dirty, exaggerated, and dishonest labels your mind plasters onto reality. This is the sage's sober gaze, seeing things not as you wish them to be, not as you fear them to be, but only and solely as they are, bare, uninterpreted, unfiltered. This clarity is the foundation of peace. The world is already complex and noisy enough. Your task is not to add yet another layer of false drama created by your own mind on top of that complexity. Your task is to cut away those layers like a surgeon's scalpel and reach the simple truth beneath them. Because a mind that can see reality as it is, can never be taken prisoner by any fantasy or any fear. 12. Build an unshakable fortress while the storm rages outside. Throughout this journey, we entered the darkest corridors of your mind. We ruthlessly illuminated your arrogance, your fears, your never-ending complaints, and your deepest delusions. We took the responsibility for your life's hardships away from the outside world and placed it squarely on your own shoulders. If you have made it this far, you now know that peace is not a vacation in the Maldives or money sitting in a bank account. Peace is an outcome. Peace is a structure built every day, every moment, through conscious effort. That structure is what the Stoics called the inner fortress. And you should know this, life has not yet landed its most ruthless punch on you. That day will come. It will come in the form of a betrayal, a loss, an illness, or a failure, and it will try to shake you to your foundation, to bring you down. The question is, when that day comes, where will you be? Inside a ramshackle tent tossed about by the wind? Or inside a fortress with unshakable walls and a solid foundation? Because the storm is inevitable. But whether or not you build a shelter is entirely your choice. You cannot build this fortress overnight with a magic formula. Every single brick of this fortress is every single principle you learned on this journey. Each brick is laid with pain, discipline, and repetition. Now come, let's look at the blueprint of the fortress you've built. Let's remember what you used to raise those walls. You laid the foundation of this fortress with that first and most unshakable truth, knowing what is within your control and what is not. Without this foundation, everything you build collapses at the slightest tremor. When you stopped spending your energy on the external world you cannot control and redirected it toward the only domain you can rule, your own mind, you cleared the ground and poured the foundation. You raised the thick, impenetrable walls of your fortress by separating events from the hysterical interpretations you made about them. You understood that an event is merely an event, and that what turns it into a catastrophe are the toxic labels you attach to it. With the scalpel of objective perception, you scraped away the exaggerated layer of drama your mind had plastered over reality. Now your walls are made of the pure, solid stone of truth. Lies and fantasies cannot seep through these walls. You built the watchtowers. You climbed those towers and looked at the world with the cosmic perspective. You saw your own smallness, the meaninglessness of your troubles within that vast universe. This perspective filed down your ego. You stopped taking yourself so seriously. When you looked from these towers, even your greatest enemies transformed into human beings who fear and suffer just like you. Empathy became the sharpest-eyed sentinel in your towers. You filled the fortress's armory by calmly thinking through the worst-case scenarios in advance, through premeditatio malorum. You are no longer unprepared. You have thought about what life might hurl at you. You conducted mental drills against the worst. This is why when a real attack comes, you do not panic. You calmly descend to the armory, put on the plan and the fortitude you prepared beforehand, and mount your defense. Fear is a luxury of the unprepared, and you are always prepared. This fortress has a constitution, one immutable law: virtue is the only good. The false prizes of the outside world, money, fame, status, are invalid within the borders of this fortress. The only currency accepted here is your character. You would rather be a poor but honorable soldier than a rich but virtueless king. Because the walls of this fortress are not made of gold or silver, They are made of wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. That is why they can never be bought and can never be destroyed. In the vast training grounds inside your fortress, you tamed those wild animals within you every day. You trained the spoiled anger monster that appears when your expectations are unmet, the cunning fear serpent that feeds on the uncertainty of the future, and the never-satisfied desire pig. Through emotional discipline, they are no longer your masters, they are servants under your command. And on the great gates of your fortress, you carved two mighty principles. On the first gate is written a more fatty: love everything that happens to you as if you yourself had chosen it. On the second gate is written the obstacle is the way. Everything that attacks you transforms into fuel that makes you even stronger. Because of these two principles, your fortress can never be besieged. For every enemy, every problem, every pain that enters, instead of weakening the fortress's defenses, strengthens them. Yours is the only fortress that grows under attack. In the highest tower, that great clock always chimes. Memento mori, reminding you at every moment, every second, that your time is running out, that you are mortal. This clock keeps you from laziness, from procrastination, from wasting time on meaningless affairs. It whispers to you how precious every moment spent within this fortress truly is. What does it feel like to live inside such a fortress? It does not mean being emotionless. You hear the storm raging outside, the sound of rain, the howl of the wind. You feel sad, yes, you feel the pain. But that pain can no longer seep into the throne room of your fortress. It is merely a noise that strikes the walls and passes. Inside, at the center of your fortress, an unshakable tranquility reigns. Because you know that no matter what the weather is like, you have a place to take shelter. Your peace no longer depends on the weather outside. You have created your own climate. This is a quiet and humble power. You no longer need the approval of others, because your worth comes from within. You no longer fear misfortune, because you possess the tools to turn every misfortune into an opportunity. But make no mistake. You cannot build this fortress once and then go on vacation. The maintenance of this fortress lasts a lifetime. With every decision you make each day, with every reaction you show, you either add a stone to that fortress or pull one from its wall. A day you were lazy, a moment you lacked discipline, an argument where you surrendered to your anger, each is a breach opened in those walls. And life is very skilled at finding those breaches.